This is Dama's Walk the Talk Show. I'm so excited to see all of you here. I'm so excited that you've subscribed, you've clicked the notification button so that you just get all our views and all our comments and all our shows together. Thank you so much for keeping it safe. Thank you for sanitizing. Thank you for washing your hands thoroughly with soap and water. And thank you for keeping the 1.5 meters distance. With me is Caroline, one of the women who I am so pleased to have met. And we've talked earlier about depression, stigma, what things women go through in this COVID season, you know, the domestic violence and the mental wellness, and also the bit of her story, what she's gone through in terms of depression. And depression is real. I mean, especially this time where people have lost their jobs, women don't know what to do, men come home and they don't know what to do. Again and again, we keep saying, please don't fall into depression. I hear there are many groups outside there, don't fall into depression. So we're going to hear more from Caroline, and thank you so much for Caroline. Karibu sana. And thanks for accepting this call, and thanks for accepting to come to a show.
Thank you for having me.
So Caroline, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a mother. I have 3 kids. My oldest is 17. Okay. Yeah, and my youngest is 3. Oh, yeah. So, and I'm a trained PR person. Okay. So I have trained, my career is PR, but then I'm also a certified life coach. I veered off my training, got into career coaching and life coaching because of depression, which is, you know, the story of my life and how I discovered my purpose. And I'm currently working with Being Me Network, which is a foundation, a network that I've started to help women with mental and emotional health, you know, well-being.
What made you think of starting that Me Network?
Since I started coaching, I realized that women are unique. The way we handle women when it comes to mental and emotional health is different. And they are so predisposed. That's why you find that most people who have mental health issues are women. Because one, we are in a very highly patriarchal society. And so how girls are brought up, they are brought up with a lot of shaming and guilt tripping and all that, and self-hate. So that predisposes them to depression. Again, we have hormonal issues. Men only have, I think, 1 hormone. Women have so many hormones to balance, you know.
Yes, that affects the mental health.
Exactly, because mental health is about brain chemical balance. If your brain chemicals are not balanced well, then your emotional and mental health is affected. So that's why I thought, you know, women need to learn how to self-care. Women need to learn how to, actually they need to learn their biology so that they know that they are predisposed and they can be extra careful.
You talked about depression. How was it with you?
Wow, I went through many years of depression without knowing, but then once I got a really paralyzing anxiety attack, and that's when I was diagnosed with major clinical depression, and I was put on psychotherapy, which is basically just talk therapy. After a while, I became suicidal, and so I was put on medication. Now I began to see a psychiatrist, and it got worse as I went on with the medication, because the medication also has a lot of side effects. And so I became psychotic, meaning I began to hear voices in my head. And given that I was suicidal and I was psychotic, then that was a psychiatric emergency. So I was admitted, and I stayed in hospital for like 2 weeks. After that, because of the medication, I was like zombie mode, you know, because the medication just numbs you. It's trying to balance your brain chemicals and making you to be less sensitive to emotion. So I was in that zone. And in that period, I began to journal. I began to, and most importantly, I began to journal my psychosis. So I would hear voices in my head, and I would pull out my laptop and I would type what I'm hearing. And that's how I began to increase my self-awareness. And after a period of, I think, 6 months, I got off medication, which is not advisable because I didn't do it according to how the doctors advised, but I did it, and I haven't been on medication for the last 5 years.
While you're going through the depression and all this, where were your children?
Well, I was married then. I'm separated now, so I was home with them, and it was really hard even just telling family what's really going on. I remember my ex really had my back. Like nobody ever knew, because again of stigma. Nobody ever knew what was wrong. Even when I was in hospital, it was, you know, the excuse was I'm having headaches. And of course he limited the visitors to come see me because I was out of it. Like I wasn't really coherent. But the kids, you know, the kids were like, Mom is not around, and then when I'm around, I'm not the same kind of person. So I'm sure it affected them at some point. I had two then, so my eldest and my second born, and my second born was really young, so he probably wasn't figuring out what was happening. And my firstborn was in boarding, so I'm sure it affected them, but to what extent, to be honest, I really don't know.
One of the things that we really are struggling right now with women and depression, and anybody who's gone through all this, is stigma. What is it that the society can do about the stigma issue?
Wow, stigma is basically starts with the self, because again there's a way you've been conditioned about mental health, about mental illness. You've been told mental illness is somebody who looks like a chokora out there, you know, and you don't want to be that person. So even when you're going through a mental health issue, you have a lot of fear. You don't want to get to that level. Again, people don't really have an understanding of what depression is. And many people think that you can snap out of it. And so when you say you have depression, most people see you as weak, or as a crybaby, or as, you know, just a weakling. And those are the factors that make people stigmatize others. And stigma is just fear, really. Stigma is fear. And for me, the first person that stigmatized me was me.
Yourself?
Myself. Because I was like, I don't want to own my experience. I don't want to say that this is what I'm going through. I don't want to accept first. Even before I tell anybody else, I don't want to accept. Because what does it mean to me to be mentally ill? It's to be crazy. And how are crazy people treated in this society? You know, they're pushed aside.
You know, we have domestic violence, we have women going through issues, many have lost their jobs, many have been going through literally everything, you know, that is not normal. You know, where perhaps you're providing very well for the family, here you are, or your husband has just lost his job, especially the many industries that now closed down. And how are women, have you met some women who are just going through it and saying, oh, you know, I'm just going through this, I don't know what to do. Is it a society, are we talking about it more, or are we, during this season, what's happening?
There's a lot that's happening, because one, even that hashtag stay at home is causing some people a lot of depression, because we are all now at home. Some people were escaping to work, some people were escaping to parties or to their friends, but now we have to stay at home. We have to learn how to cope with each other's irritability and each other's just simple mannerisms, and it's crazy. Again, if you look at the home setting, the woman in the home has more responsibility. She needs to cook, she needs to take care of the kids. Now the kids are not going to school, so it's your responsibility, you know, wamesoma, you know, have they, all these things. And then on top of that, some people are working and they're forced to work at home. So you have to create space, a physical space, and space in your mind and time to work in the whole of this chaos. It doesn't work for most people. And then sometimes when your performance and your salary depends on it, there's more pressure. You know, there are some people who can't just say, okay, it's not working, I won't.
It's fine.
Some people are, you know, deliverables are expected, and it's pressure. On top of that, people are taking pay cuts. People are, you know, they are confused because we don't know when this will end. We are just looking at trends elsewhere and we're like, oh, second wave, people have been locked up again. So all these uncertainties, all these excess responsibilities, and then also the idea that we can't go out and blow off steam is something else. Because I've seen, and many women have been telling them, do you have a proactive schedule for self-care?
What's that proactive self-care?
I don't know what it can be for someone else, but for me, it means I can't take a day out. Like I feel overwhelmed, I just go and book an apartment somewhere and spend the night there. just watching Netflix and doing nothing. Tomorrow I'll come back home revitalized. For someone else, it could be taking a drive or a walk. For another person, it could be just give me 10 minutes, I need to read a book. For someone, it could be I need to dance. For another person, it could be a glass of wine. Whatever it is, are you proactive about it? Because most of the time we have guilt and shame about getting out of our roles as mothers, as wives, and we feel as if we shouldn't. And you don't get out and just go and be D. You know, nobody's mother, nobody's wife,
Just me.
you.
Just
yeah,
me.
we
Just
don't do
me.
that proactively.
Yeah.
So we become like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And you see, depression can be increased by, actually can be triggered by excessive exposure to stress. You can be predisposed genetically if your family line has a history of mental illness. You can be predisposed because of how your hormonal balance is. Most women are depression is triggered because of maybe letting go of family planning or starting a family planning method. So your hormones are key. But now stress levels, again, your body is highly acidic. You're mostly on adrenaline, panicking. So the more you're on that space, the more your body refuses to regulate, to bring up the happy hormones. And so you sort of stay down for a while. And that's how you can get depression. So if you're not proactive, you need to say, okay, I need my happy hormones somehow.
I've seen women where some have anger and pride issues. It has really affected their marriages in the sense that their husbands literally run away from home, you know, because getting into the house, from the time he enters to the time he probably leaves or he probably is not around, he finds peace elsewhere. What this women, as you said, it's stigma. I don't know. Most of the times you want to tell them, okay, what, and they'd hide with God. You know, the way they would hide with the word of God and listening to that. And but is it time that we started telling them seek help? You know, seek help and talk about it, or what happens? Because some men, in my inbox, I get a lot of messages like, oh, Dama, you need to talk to my wife. Wow, that house is unbearable. Like the shouting. Are there classes that people go?
One, we need to normalize therapy.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my sister yesterday and I told her, you know what, I'm back to therapy. It doesn't have to get to a place where you're losing people, where you're losing your mind, where you're, you know, traumatizing your children for you to go for therapy. And for me, since I started working with women and I started working on myself, I have realized that even if you research in psychology, there's something called the inner child.
Okay.
How you are brought up, there's so many traumas that you went through, even without your parents intending to, or your caregivers intending to traumatize you, but they did, or your life experiences, you are traumatized. Now these traumas begin to replay in your life, in your relationships. So this woman can be angry and nasty, but it has nothing to do with the husband. The husband has just touched a button that is already there.
Yeah.
And these buttons, believe it or not, we get them when we are 0 to 7 years old.
0 to 7?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Between 0 to 7 years old, you have already created your structure. It's like the building structure is already, the rest you're just amplifying.
Wow.
So now imagine, most of us have not done that work. We have not developed the self-awareness of what happened in my childhood and how is it impacting me now, my life work, my relationship, my parenting, how is it affecting me now? And then without doing that work, then two of us merge and we call it trauma bonding. We are trauma bonding because you're triggering me, I'm triggering you. And then we crash a relationship, but it has nothing to do with who we are right now. It has everything to do with how we were brought up and the structures that we created back then. So it's important, therapy helps you to uncover the stuff before it becomes, you know, it causes you to just wreak havoc in your life. Because most of us are self-sabotaging.
If my mom went through stress, depression, and all that, being the first caregiver and being the first nurturer, I will tend to color her. Now, I'm married, perhaps or I'm separated, or perhaps I'm going through these things in marriage and all that, and with this COVID and with all this depression, children are at home, all these things, as you've said, they're all together, put in together. How do I handle me? Perhaps I don't even have money to go to this therapy. How do I manage this? Do I walk? Perhaps I don't even want to walk or get out of my bed.
There are so many skills that I teach women and women are taught, and you can even go online and find a tool that works for you. But some women journal, because and I say if I had this one pill that I would give people, it would be self-awareness, because everybody's experience is unique. I cannot copy paste the way I've sorted myself out and give it to you, because it won't work. You have to figure out how your life works and what works for you. And what helps you is self-awareness. And you begin to...
But what if I'm in denial?
And that's the key, because the first thing is to actually begin to go back into your life and ask yourself, how was today? You know, even without trying to dichotomize things as good and bad, just journaling will tell you today was like this, just that. And then with time, you will begin to see a pattern, and you'll begin to think, wait, when this happens, I think like this, I feel like this, I act like this. So I tell people, begin to analyze your life. Your life story is the gem. Wachana na these autobiographies we read. Your own life has so many gems, has so many lessons you can learn. So whatever helps you expand your self-awareness, go for it. It could be journaling, it could be dancing, because again, dancing gives you body awareness. You become aware. It's like you sink deeper into your body. You can walk. You can get, create some time with friends. There are friends who are doing Zoom calls, even if you can't link up. You can go online and just search, how can I expand my self-awareness? And then also take advantage. Coaches give free sessions. They do? Yeah, they do give a free taster session for you to just understand what coaching is and how it works. So go for those ones, because even if you can't afford the main one, that 30-minute experience will give you something to work with.
Girls and teenage pregnancy and domestic violence that is happening right now. Is it the pressure at home? Is it the stress? Is it the depression? What is happening at our homes? Is it that we haven't had time, as you've said? Could it be part of it is, as we are seated at home, we don't know each other anymore. We don't know. I don't know your attributes. We were used to waking up at 5 and going to work, coming back at 6 p.m. It's our house girl who's looking after the children. Or what is happening at our homes?
First of all, a lot of us, we do not want to acknowledge the pink elephant in the living room. It's there, but we just want to look away. And that is, there are conversations that need to be had. All of us need to acknowledge ourselves as we are, our life experiences as they are, and then talk about it. So how many people in these households are really having real conversations?
You must be home, because you can't be in the bar. They've refused you to be in the bar. You have to be home. Are you going to talk to yourselves? Are you going to be in another room? And what if I don't have those rooms? What if I don't have the luxury of 3 rooms?
Even the thing about COVID, people are not talking about how is this thing affecting us? What's your struggle? What's your struggle? We are just going on as if it's normal.
It's true.
And then we are coping and then bracing ourselves with all this, tense energy to try and cope. And then we are clashing because you need to wake up at 6. You need to do this. But we are really not even connecting.
We're not having that kind of
we are not connecting, and we are
I've not even asked, like, how are you coping? What's your stress?
Exactly. Like what are you most afraid of? What dreams are you feeling like are shattering right now? Can I give you a hug? We are not doing that. We are not doing that. And that is what we need, because if we listen to each other, if we connect and just listen to each other, let's not stop shouting at each other, or controlling each other. Let's first connect. Let's prioritize connecting. When we connect, then I'll know your needs. I'll know your stresses. I'll know what is irritating you. I'll know that the way you snapped at me yesterday wasn't about me. Now I'll get you. you know, and then we will reduce the level of stresses, because right now houses need, I don't know what miracle can be done, saging, incest, I don't know. There's a lot of stress energy in the houses.
What shocks me is, are we hiding our emotions that much, or are we such a depressed society?
We are such a depressed society that is refusing to acknowledge our state, and so we sort of find a target to unleash our negative vibes instead of taking responsibility and realizing this is me feeling this way, and if I hold on to this, I'm gonna hurt others. And how can I get, because if I ask you to give me something in your pocket, if there is nothing in your pocket, you'll give me nothing. If there is a knife, you'll give me a knife. So whoever is bullying is actually giving out what they have, the bitterness, the rage, the anger. And so because that's an easy target, and you have a pseudo account, you have a keyboard, you know, you can hide behind, then that's easier.
Is it time we also included mental awareness in school as a curriculum, or as a session, like a PE session where we have, is it time we tell our Ministry of Education, you know what? Because let me ask, right now we're going to go back to schools. Is the government telling us how we will handle the children when they go back to school? Or do you feel like the government is also giving us enough and adequate information where we are going to say, we're going to go back to school. You're going to tell your daughter, okay, fine, we're going to go back to school. This is how to handle school, because you don't know what next.
Even at home, you are not even fully equipped yourself to handle their emotional needs. And that's one of the things that parents are blank about. I can provide for my kids the clothes they need, the food they need, the education they need. But when it comes to their emotional and mental health, how do I do that? I can't even hack my own. I don't have tools that help me regulate, because one of the things that kids need to be taught is how to regulate themselves. Now, as parents, every stage of a child, they need to learn how to regulate themselves, because guess what? You can never protect them from every trauma in their life.
That's true.
You cannot be there with them 24/7. But do you know how to regulate yourself? Because if you don't, you shout at them, that's what you model. You know, they're like, oh, anger is about throwing things, it's about shouting, raising your voice. Okay, I'm learning.
And now with the closure of churches, do you think, have you seen churches, I can speak for my church, there's an online, or our church is open for sessions. We get this Zoom messages where we are talking about domestic violence, everything. But have you seen other churches where now they're coming up with models of how to mold the family? But
then it's what I call Bandaid.
Okay.
So you just, you know, tap a Bandaid there, inaendelea kuzorotea huko ndani, you know? Everything that is locked right now, and I've been saying this and I'm seeing this for myself, and I think it's something that people need to wake up to, that in this season, God, or whoever you call the divine or supreme being, has told us, sit down there and deal with your core issues. Because everything that was an addiction for us has been stopped.
What do you think we need to tell the government? Because I'm sure at some point this clip would be able to reach the Ministry of Health, Ministry of ICT, Ministry of Education, you know, energy and all this, and especially gender.
The government should actually come together and bring stakeholders together, bring people like coaches, therapists, people that in the education sector, people like pastors and religious leaders. They come together and deliberate on the real issues, and then come up with solutions that are customized to get us to a future that we are going to envision. Because right now, I don't know do we have a vision? Because if you don't have a vision, you can't even start your journey. You're going to where?
Thank you so much, Carol, for coming. And I bless the Lord for you. I pray for more grace so that you keep dealing with women, you know, so that we keep talking about all these other issues. Because honestly, it's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener of what is happening in the society. So if you want to get in touch with Carol, we'll send you the bio link the link on our bio, and you should be able to just catch a glimpse of what she does. And if you're a woman who's going through these issues that are happening in life, please get in touch with her, get to talk about these issues. It's a season that we have to accept that it's happening. And I'm told it's not only women. please get in touch with Carol. We'll send you the link, and get in touch with us. Should you need her address, we'll be able to give it to you, and let's save our society. And as we've said, remember 20 years from today, that child that you have in the house will be a leader. Which kind of a leader are you looking at having right now? So thank you so much. Remember to subscribe and remember to hit the notification button. God bless you.